Yeah. I'd love to have a pontoon boat, but I don't think we'd use it as much as,
What you think,
yeah.
Somebody told me up north, like a snowmobile, you have to plan, there's only like 7 weekends. So you think about that with a boat, like how many weekends do you have? And how
Per
many
year. Per year, you mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so you really don't have many times, so when it's frigid cold, you gotta get on your snowmobile.
Right.
You know, and if it's windy or whatever, you gotta get out in your boat. Just
The people
If
that,
there's no
yeah.
snow, you gotta go
That's right.
up, up, up.
That's why I was talking to people in Minneapolis, so they have more available. Not around here. Peggy's watching the clock, aren't you?
Oh, it's,
Oh, it's 5.
It's 5 o'clock.
5 o'clock.
Everybody else is too. A lot of people. Let's call this meeting to order. Peggy, could you call roll call, please?
Stang,
Present.
Jameson, Frisch,
Present.
Van Kampen, Knudsen,
Here.
Mark Miller,
Present.
and Stitch, absent.
Very good, thank you. There's item 2. Item 3, approval of March 8th, 2022 minutes that were distributed. Does the park board members have any comments or any questions, corrections in regards to it? We'll call for an approval.
I'll make that.
The second,
I'll second.
all in favor, state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. So moved. Thank you very much. Item 4, public appearances. This gives the community the opportunity to present to the park board. It can be any items that are on the agenda or not on the agenda. We do allow the opportunity to limit the time to 15 minutes overall, 3 minutes per individual. Is there anybody that would like to present to the park board this evening? Come on forward. State your name and address, please.
Hi, I'm Teresa Nelson. I live at 245 Drumlin Circle in the Village, and I'm here representing the Oregon Nature Alliance. Speaking to the agenda item 8A regarding the permanent conservancy of the remaining properties adjacent to the new library site. The village staff have provided you with a memo outlining some of the history of this area and past planning efforts, and I think this helps show how plans evolve over time. When the school district owned the site, it may have made sense to develop the adjacent lands into sports fields that would have been used by the school and the community. But I think there's been an evolution in thought for this area based on the significant public input provided during the library planning process. During that process, the village board received hundreds of comments, many of them asking to protect the park area from development. Ultimately, the village board decided to allow the library to build at the new site, but many of them acknowledged that they heard the desire of many village residents to protect, preserve, and restore the remaining land along Alpine Parkway. I understand that the village staff have been planning sports fields for this area for many years and that the current park plan discusses this. But I'd also like to point out, if you're not already aware, that the current park plan also discusses preserving the village's natural resources as one of its 3 main goals. So to be consistent with one of the main goals of the park plan, we are asking for a different use of this area, a use that can be enjoyed by all village residents now and into the future, not just those associated with organized sports. A use that not only reflects the current values of our village residents, but also helps address the very real and urgent challenges of biodiversity loss and climate change, among others. One of the main goals of the Oregon Nature Alliance is to represent and elevate the voice of those who value the natural world and believe we need to do more to preserve, protect, and restore it, a voice that has not been adequately represented or heard in the past, including when the last park plan was written. I encourage you to take action now and support the board's desire to permanently conserve this area so we can work on improving it for our current residents, our future residents, and the natural community of which we are all a part. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any questions from any of the park board for comments? Very good, thank you. Is there anybody else like to present to the park board this evening? Hearing nobody, let's move on to the next item. Thank you for the contributions. Item 5, reports to the village officers, update on the J.C. Park redevelopment project.
Right, so you have the memo that I had prepared for last night's village board meeting. I don't know, I can't remember if we'd gone in with detail with you on why we had to rebid the one contract, and that definitely did. It put us under a real tough timeline for contract B to be able to award that, because we wanted to use that first bid, but then also to be able to get the second bid, the second set of bids. And as you can see on the second time around for contract A, which was the general site conditions, instead of 3 bids, we got 5, and our low bid was about $146,000 lower than the previous low bid under the previous project. So we actually were successful in kind of straightening that out, and as well as saving a little money there, which was very, very needed, because we are literally pulling it just about from every source we can possibly do to be able to do the entire park, at least phase 1 of the entire park. So we met internally and came up with a recommendation for the base bid for contract A, and then the only alternate that we were recommended and the village board approved was alternate A4, which was the type of netting that goes along the backstops. It's a removable netting versus chain link fencing. And according to, I spoke to some individuals at the high school as well as with Beacon Athletics, and they're much better viewing environment for games and everything behind this baseball netting type of structure. So that brings the total cost for contract A for the site work and fields and everything, and irrigation system and well and everything, to $3.063 million. And that was accepted last night by the village board. There was considerable discussion last night from the pickleball folks. Definitely very good points, but quite honestly, we just don't feel like we have the funds right now, both from donated as well as just the funds that we have borrowed and been able to pull from other sources to be able to do that project in phase 1. So we're doing that in phase 2, and which we hope, honestly, we're able to turn around and at the completion of phase 1, look at doing phase 2 right away. And so we know they're not happy about that, but you know, we have to draw the line somewhere. Contract B for site electrical construction, we got a very good bid from Electric Construction. We did not want to let that one expire beyond the 60 days allowed after bid opening. So we really wanted to make sure that that was accepted. That was as well, but we have no alternates. The only alternate on that was for pickleball lighting, and since we're not doing the courts, we were not doing any additional alternates under that contract. The last contract was for contract C, and that's the concession stand building. And the concession stand building really kind of blew us out of the water. When we're talking about construction costs in the neighborhood for it, and this is what we call a CMU, or a concrete masonry unit block building, was in the neighborhood of $400 to $500 per square foot, which is, in construction ease, that is extremely high. So instead of about a $500,000 building, which what our architects expected, what we expected, we had prices of just over $1 million and then $1.3 million, and only 2 bids. So at our recommendation, the village board did accept to reject, or did reject, both bids for that. We are going to go back to the drawing table a little bit in the summer and reevaluate some of the things with the building, just to see if we can cut some costs. And then we're also been told that we feel that there will be a better bidding market in this fall. So we plan to take that again out to bid, hopefully in October, and have that maybe be a through the winter type of construction into spring. But we anticipate we will have a kickoff meeting for the J.C. Park in the coming weeks. We'll get contracts signed, and then we anticipate that we will start to see equipment move in and some of the preliminary grading clearing, grubbing, all of that, to be occurring hopefully in May or early June. So, any questions on J.C. Park, and any questions from last night at the board meeting or anything? So,
Just a comment, I think it'd be nice to, when you're ready to start, that we can have a ceremony so that everybody, then maybe we can get some more funds donated.
sure.
Have a groundbreaking.
The groundbreaking, sure, and
Mhm.
the chamber would love to help you with that.
Yeah, I think that's a nice idea, Judy. We will organize that. You still have the shovels
I certainly do.
and the hard hats?
Yep, we have them.
Great. It'd be nice to maybe even invite someone like a previous administrator who was very instrumental in helping out with that too. I know,
Be
he
outside, so maybe he would come.
maybe would come, yes. It's a good
So-
idea.
So Jeff, the electrical has to coordinate with the primary bid and the timing for when that all
Correct,
takes place,
correct.
right? So-
It's really, the electrical is kind of, think of it in two types of projects. There is the electrical that'll actually be electrified. That's the parking lot lighting, the mezzanine lighting that would go in that concrete area around the fields and along the paths. And then there is all of the underground conduit and pole bases to future lighting standards. So we planned all along so that we wouldn't have to tear up the ground the second time, so that we would install the conduit and all the bases for all the large poles, the Musco lighting poles and everything like that. So hopefully, and maybe it's part of phase two, I have a feeling it's probably part of phase three, would be site electrical lighting. Could be done in a couple of years.
Okay. Any other questions from the park board? Very good. Thank you, Jeff.
You're welcome.
Item 5B, update on the Kaiser Park tennis courts.
Yeah, speaking of lighting, this was something that happened on December 16th, and actually, this was something that, I'll call it good and bad. The research that we've done on the tennis courts, they were built in 1976 and 77, so they're almost 45 years old. And at that time, that we did receive a grant to do the courts, the fencing, and the lighting. We think all the poles out there for the lighting are of that vintage. And those poles, even though they're preserved and sitting in wet ground for so many years, have been slowly decaying and everything. So on December 16th, we had a really big windstorm. Someone called us up and said one of the poles is down out at the tennis courts. And it was literally just snapped in half, or snapped at the base there. And you can, if you look at it up close, you can see it's pretty well rotted around it. We ended up realizing that if one is that way, the other 5 are more than likely in that condition as well. So we knew that we would have to do a couple things. First of all, we did close the courts earlier this year when the weather started to get nice, just because we don't want someone playing there and being injured. And then I've been working, we've contracted with a company to come in and remove the remaining 5 light poles for this year. Our goal is to get the courts open and operating. And they were actually supposed to be out there either today or tomorrow. I called and I had not heard, or I asked my guys and we had not seen them out there yet. But what they're gonna do is remove the rear 3 poles, and then the remaining front 2 poles are gonna cut off at about 6 feet tall, because they're both in concrete, and one's holding up all the electrical equipment, the other one is in concrete, and we'll wait till likely next year when we reinstall new poles and also actually reconstruct the courts. So we are going to be submitting a grant application that will, it's the same grant program we did when this was actually done in 1976. And so we're thinking we're gonna get some extra points because now we're taking that and taking it to the next generation here. But our goal is to completely remove all the asphalt, recompact the area, check for any soft spots, redo the posts for the tennis courts, put in all new asphalt, new coatings, new striping, both for tennis and for pickleball, and also 6 new poles. And the lights are only 8 or 10 years old, so we'll just reuse the lights and add new conduit and everything. So that's the plan for the tennis courts.
In the choosing of lights, LEDs become more and more commonplace, and so I know that's something that was kind of even thrown around the baseball diamonds. It's tough to justify. They're not on it quite enough to really justify
Right.
LED.
I would love to do LED out here. The problem is they're actually in pretty good shape. These are metal halide lights, and I looked at them, and Searle Electric actually found the contract when they did them back in 2011, I think. We are going to look at whether we would just put new LED lights up there instead. But then we get into whether we would use metal poles this time around. And it's kind of these equivalent of, like I said, if anyone's ever had a kid car, I call it a kid car, where it's a car that gets them around Oregon and that kind of thing, but you're always wondering how much money am I going to put into it, because it's definitely older site over there, and our goal is to hopefully, at least for pickleball, have the new courts over at JC Park West, and then eventually, have these reconstructed. So we'll see as we go. I mean, it kind of goes with what kind of funding we have, and we did have 25,000 in funding, I think, for resurfacing. But now that we've spent about 6,000 to 7,000 of that just to be able to make them so we can open this year, we won't have enough for resurfacing this year.
Okay. Any other questions?
So just to clarify, the plan is to reopen this year and resurface next year. So
Correct.
it will be open this year.
Yeah, I was hoping we would have it open this week.
Okay.
Yeah, but we're also supposed to get some really big winds. So we'll
It's
see.
windy.
Maybe they'll come down on their own, Jeff.
I-
Save some money.
I'm afraid if they come down their own, they're going to come down on the fence, or I don't want them to come down on the power lines or the road or anything like that, obviously. So.
Never fall where you want them to.
Right, and the other end of that is, we don't know how long the ones were at the Kaiser Diamond, those are old lights too. So these are all things that we're probably gonna have to evaluate over time and kind of keep tabs on, because it's definitely not cheap, but it's not terrible. I mean, I think I can get new poles and everything installed for about $15,000 to $20,000
At the Kaiser Park, you see?
at the tennis courts, yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Item 5C. I put a request in just to clarify about park board membership, because there's, the time frame comes around that we cycle through that right now. And since the park board itself was reconfigured, I think it was actually 2 years ago or so, so it cycled in and such that they ended up having a 3-year terms rotating, so that all the people didn't come in and leave all at once. So I just wanted a clarification. So Martin did put some notes in the terms. Likewise, with the village board having some changes, that impacts people we have on the park board as well. I think the challenge with the park board is it's been difficult to have a consistency of members. So wanted to make sure that continues on. And so we're going to have a couple of positions that open up. So did you have something up there that you could share, Jeff, or is that just an announce?
This just gives the duration where each person on the board right now is. Like Luke, his term is expiring. Phil is obviously transitioning to village board member. These others won't expire. Your term does expire 2022.
Correct.
And I'm not privy to whether that's been whether you've been appointed or not, or anything's been discussed with you on that. So I apologize.
And then likewise.
And Miller
students.
Stang, yes. But I would think, as far as members, I know Randy will be presenting all of that at next Tuesday's, a week from today, at the organizational meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just to know and update where we're at with that. So want to continue with the board members, so please don't move out of the village.
And no raises this year too. I think it was in here, wasn't it?
I don't
Yeah.
think he wrote that down. Maybe
Okay,
that was verbal.
you have to read between the lines on that.
All right, thank you. Item 6, communication and miscellaneous business items that or might be discussed, or potential action items. Item A on this was request from Oregon Soccer Club related to usage of park facilities and scheduling. Would you like to come forward? That'd be awesome, thank you.
And just to let you all know, Brian and I have been in communication over the last couple of days and just weren't able to get information in the packet ahead of time, but we've discussed some of the requests, and Jeff, maybe you can bring up the map too for some of the shed locations that we
I
wanted
will,
to
that
talk
was in that
about too.
email, wasn't it?
Yep.
Okay.
Brian Steffen, 385 North Bergamot Boulevard, over by Mulligan's. I think the first thing, I'll do better next time to get the items on the calendar. Elise gave me an email reminding me, it just didn't get done. First one was storage sheds at 3 of the fields. Village Hall Field, which is right next to the new Village Hall. And
Has a
then
name.
Hmm?
You just named it.
No,
Actually,
there's a
I-
formal name that somebody had.
Oh.
We used to call it Piotr Park.
Is it?
Well, no, because Steve Piotr was the bank.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, but there's no real name on it.
No.
We just jokingly called it Piotr Park.
We'll have to-
But this is the area
PP1.
that's right next to 101 Alpine, the new Village Hall building. Yeah.
Yeah, so ultimately, we were looking at putting a shed at each of the locations, kind of something that looked natural. It kind of blended in. I had if I could have gotten a front picture of this, I would have had it molded in right next to the garbage framing at the new Village Hall, kind of fit right in the color scheme of the brick. Plus it's small. It's really mainly for flags and the aluminum nets that we use for that age group. This is the smaller teams. This is gonna be our U7, U8 teams, eight people max. I think we're going to have 3 fields max at any one location. So smaller numbers, and so we're not pulling in an 18 person roster and, flooding it with a lot more traffic. So this is going to be, the shed is that little white spot right next to the garbage cans there. Of course, Jeff reminded me 5 feet off the,
Yeah.
yep. I remember that when I put my shed at my house.
Yeah, it's just, I just
So-
wanna make sure we're always holding ourselves to the same standards everyone else is and
Yep.
stuff.
Yeah, this one was the easiest to place. The other two are, let's just say, I don't really wanna put it next to the playground.
Right.
Because of that area to the, I think it'd be south. The south gets a lot wetter.
This over here. does.
No, actually further.
This?
The other way, up against the the wall down on the lower side. Bottom, yeah.
Over here?
No.
South end of the park.
So,
The
over
other-
here?
Yeah, right over there.
Yeah,
Oh, this gets wet up here? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I don't think it would ever work for a
Mhm.
full field without marshy areas.
Mhm.
So that was kind of up against the, what I'd say, the back 40 of it,
Mhm.
out of the way. It kind of blend in with the trees, I think, because of the earth color.
And you're not gonna be in someone's backyard, cause this is park
It's-
right here.
I think it actually comes up, slightly
Mhm, it
raised
does, yeah.
also. But this one, yeah, I'm more open to ideas. And it might be that we're gonna put them on skids, which we might need a little bit of help once we get them built,
Mhm.
to actually get them over in the
Yeah.
proper area.
Yeah, we'll work with you on that.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, and then the other one is Wingcrest. This one, I think, tucks it behind that one house. That tree kind of block, is theirs. I could see us putting it right behind that tree, so it kind of is blocked. I know the homeowner.
Is there a fence along this back? No, okay.
Not that I know of.
Do you know them?
Mm-hmm, yep. So I'll talk to Jeannie and make sure that she's happy with it, versus, because I think if you can put it behind the tree, you can block almost seeing it, because it's
Mhm.
just 4 feet wide, so it's pretty narrow.
I mean, you could go over here too, maybe.
Good. That would mean it'd be far enough away. I'm okay with that too. I kinda like that idea.
guys
Then it's
have
not in
any
their backyard,
Desires or?
not in their backyard.
I think if it's in the park a little bit further, it's not as visible, not as much of an attraction versus
Mhm.
along the road. So
Yeah.
on the road, it just, it's kind of like anything, it's like don't touch, and then people want to touch.
Yeah. The only thing I'm thinking is we normally don't have, like, up along the road, we don't typically allow,
No, we have a
Uh,
30-foot setback on,
yeah.
Okay.
So I don't even know, maybe along the east side, if there's any trees there, but yeah, I would say try to stay back from the sidewalk,
you could, I mean, right here would probably be 30 feet.
yeah.
We could probably try to tuck it down that next tree, right there.
Yeah,
I mean, if we could get like an easement of going right up against the property line, cause that's just that
it's just a detention pond there.
detention
Yeah.
pond.
Yeah.
Yeah, cause if we could put it right up against that, we could probably tuck it behind a tree
Mhm.
right there. Yeah, simple. That's all three of them.
All will be the same size.
Yep, same exact
What
shed.
did- well, so it's really only 6 by 5, 5 by 6?
Yep,
Yeah, that's, or 4 by 6, so.
4 by
sorry.
6.
Is there actually a window in it, or is it completely?
I was trying to read these small numbers here and I'm like,
Uh,
4 by 6,
there
that's-
might be a window.
Is-
It looks like a window. I've never seen one.
Okay.
I went for the smallest earth tone shed because I didn't want it to be bright or white or just so it kind of blended in to nature. Yes, that was the first topic. Do you want to go individually or should I just go through all of them?
Why don't we go through all of them?
Okay.
Okay. The next, I think the only other action was Highlands and Netherwood. I'm looking at possibly expanding the Sunday offering for a time. I brought that up last meeting as an opportunity for getting some games out there on Sunday, to use the nice field. And with it being a weekend, that's usually when most of the games are played, and Saturday and Sunday. So keeping the core hours of the day, I kind of thought from 11 to 3, we keep set for the neighborhood. And then we look at like a 9 is not getting somebody out there at 8 o'clock. Like 9 to 11 and 3 to 6 would be the offer, what we brought forward. Very willing to negotiate that, but it would give us 5 hours on Sunday to use the field. And then it would allow a majority of the morning or middle of the day for neighborhood families and me, because I live in that neighborhood.
What months are you looking at for that?
It would just be game months, so April, May, half of June.
And then fall?
Yeah. Yep, up until I think, once we get more full fields, that's one of the village and Brooklyn and Fitchburg are very, very low on full fields. Fitchburg has a lot of U11 fields, but not a lot of full fields. So that's one, hopefully in the park plan, that can be looked at, because that's the one field size, it's big, you know. So the J.C. Park has 2 of them in there.
Autumn Ridge.
Autumn
That'll be
Ridge
a
is
full
on
one.
on the docket to have a full field,
Highlands, yeah.
so.
I
Oh, go.
I was just gonna say, I did chat with Alex Marks from the school district that's been he's been helping us with our park reservation system this year, and asked him just about the Sunday use, if there's been a lot of other, we got a lot reservations already on the books for that shelter, for the park, for other events, and he said there are a couple, folks that wanted to kind of avoid the craziness on Saturdays that might be there with games, so they had Sundays for baby showers, birthday parties. I think there's even a wedding reception on the book, so I did just talk to Brian before the meeting and let him know about that too. I think a lot of them are midday, but those dates that those reservations have already been made, we would, Alex would just work with soccer to let them know that those are dates and times that have already been spoken for, so they wouldn't be able to, those prior reservations would take precedence. And
We don't have much of a history of that, because it hasn't been around that long.
right,
but
yeah,
we have-
but yeah, people are hearing about that park. It's a really nice facility with there's a little grill out there and the playground and the restrooms and the trail. I think it's been nice to have some smaller events out there. So anyway, but I think if that's something you all are supportive of this kind of mid-morning and then mid-late afternoon use for Highlands and Netherwood Park, I think leaving it available for the community for some part of the day. The weekends is nice. Obviously, in the evenings, it's still available too, since, dinner time and beyond. We still have light in the summer, but we're fine with that if you all are, and then just working with Alex to make sure that those reservations that are already on the books, that those dates are communicated to soccer, and those just would not be available times for games.
So how many days a week is it?
Just Sunday, right?
It's just Sunday.
But you guys are already using it a couple other days a week,
Mhm.
right? Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I
For-
think we have Wednesday. I think you blocked Wednesday and Sunday originally.
I'd have to look back, that
I
sounds
think,
about
think
right.
it's right.
Mhm.
For
Yeah, so-
rest days.
Yep.
Yeah, but you guys are doing practices out there now, and then some games on Saturday.
Saturday, Sunday,
Yeah.
even some evenings.
Yeah, I guess, and then during the summertime, you guys don't run practices
Minimal,
and games.
I mean, teams aren't practicing in the summer. Usually we end second week of June, and then it is maybe some pickup games. I know there's a community group that plays pickup ball, but it's not, what I'd say, it's not organized by the club in the summer. Maybe some camps run. I think we bring 3 or 4 different camps to town, but those are just 1 week at a time in a specific area. And then in the fall, I think it would be games September, October, and maybe half of November. So similar 2.5 month window where we do games. But that comes a little earlier, because I think come November, 6 o'clock is getting close to dark. So,
No lights out there.
yeah. But that was it. I think
Any
that was.
questions or thoughts in regards to that Sunday?
So there's nothing on Sunday right now.
No.
Yeah, and that's for all sports organizations at the moment. We didn't make it reservable for organizations, I think, that Wednesday and Sunday use. That was set by the park board, I think, last spring, because we just opened Highlands and Netherwood in the fall of 2020, so we've only really had 1 year of use. The neighborhood's still obviously being built out, but there are people that don't necessarily live in the neighborhood that are using the park. And it may be that a lot of those reservations for the baby showers and other things that are happening might be during the summertime when soccer isn't really using it as much either, but.
So for all of the parks, how many times a week do you use the parks? 5 to 7 or 3 nights a week, or what do you, like, let's look at Bergamot. How many times a week are you gonna use that?
I think we're just talking about the Highlands and Netherwood Park.
Yeah.
Judy, I mean, their other uses have already been approved for the other parks. I don't think we
Right,
need
but
to.
I'm just trying to figure out how many, so we know what's all going on and how many uses there are and all that.
It's getting wrapped up.
Battery at hand.
I'm not sure.
We have a lot of neighborhood parks we're using.
Yeah, given the JC Park construction, we kind of have more of the neighborhood parks being used more frequently for the practices and stuff this year, and probably into early part of next year as that grass comes in.
Yep, Vineyard and Highlands,
Windcrest,
and
obviously.
Windcrest,
High
Stone
Meadows.
Ridge,
Mhm.
hopefully.
So where does football and the other teams go then?
In the fall, they'll have, this is just for spring.
Okay.
Yeah, so the fall, like, we worked with rugby to use the middle school. We worked with softball to use, I always forget the name, Rustic Vineyard and RCI Upper, because that's another full field, another U11 field. So we're working with the other organizations. Football, there was one that they had a separate night that they do pick up something that we blocked off.
Yeah, we had football there last year and that was,
Oh yeah, the fall is for sure, because that's where I practiced. My son went to practice. But yeah, I'd expect the same as before. Bergamot is only used this spring because football's not there. And then football would be there again in the fall. Mm-hmm.
The only thing that I was just thinking is for safety of Bergamot, if they can also park over on, what did we say, just Prairie View?
Prairie grass.
Prairie Grass?
Paragraphs.
Instead of parking all on Bergamot because it gets so congested, and I'm so worried for the safety of the kids, because the kids run across the street, and I just go to the back porch and I don't even watch it anymore, because it's just, it's very nerve-wracking. So if you can get, when you send out the notices and just say,
Yep.
please park on Prairie Grass also, because that's a park there, so it's not in front of houses, over on Prairie Grass.
Okay, is that the one that runs?
I'll pull it up here.
Right
Yeah,
next
it's on the
door.
other side
Yeah,
Oops.
of the.
just for the safety of the kids,
It's basically like below the park.
yeah.
It's like below where your fields
Because
are.
that's what football does. They
Right.
park
Or-
park
or
over
just
on
requesting that-
Prairie Grass, and then they don't have all that congestion.
Okay.
Yeah, if you just mention it to them, because some of the mothers and fathers may not even know that's available.
Okay.
Back over here, this is Prairie Grass, so this is Bergamot Boulevard,
Yep.
Bergamot Park, and then I think Judy's asking about this area.
Yeah, because there's a playground down there.
Yeah.
Right, and
yeah.
there's no houses on, all the other houses on the other side of the road, or even on the side, so there's no houses facing at that road.
I think making the request is fine, but as far as there's no enforcement
No,
of
but
that,
I just, if they can be aware of it,
all
because once
streets are
football
open
got
for-
aware of
yeah.
it,
Mhm.
football does
Exactly.
wonderful with it.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, because we were planning on using that where it kind of cuts in. We're planning on having fields there. So yeah, we can definitely
Right-
make that in
right
our
here.
email to them.
Yeah, because when
Right.
football had the ones over on toward Prairie Grass, that's where they parked, is over there. Then they didn't have to walk as far there.
Mhm.
And then the pickup wasn't as bad either.
Right. Okay.
So you were only able to make spring work with working with other organizations
Yeah,
to
and
make it happen.
depending on when JC Park opens, so,
Yeah,
Yeah.
the date keeps shifting. We've been
you know.
in communication with baseball, soccer, everyone's kind of asking, how much longer can we use the fields?
Yep. So as it shifts back,
There-
it's a
Yeah.
bonus.
Yeah.
But yeah, we have, well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We're spread on 15 different fields in town, so.
So with the 5 hours a day for those months that you talked about on Sundays really lessen the burden?
On the big fields, for sure, because our big fields, right now are Highlands and Netherwood, High Meadows, Prairie View, which Prairie View has been a wetland up until like the
Last
the
year.
drought of the last 2 years that actually brought it back, and it's not a waterbed anymore, where you're walking across, and the middle school. So if we didn't get the middle school and Prairie View, was not allowed because of water, we'd have Highlands and Netherwood and High Meadows in the spring. So we have 9 teams, on 2 fields.
How did your season in lacrosse match up? Because there's that field behind the ice arena, and that's
That is girls lacrosse.
during the same time period? Okay.
Yep,
Yeah,
and
it
we give-
is. And
okay.
we traditionally run practices if we're there 4:45 to 6:45.
Okay.
Now we've been lucky this season that we're practicing up at Bree Stevens in Madison.
Oh, nice.
But traditionally that it has not been that way in the past, so we traditionally the lacrosse board traditionally likes to mark it off
Sure.
during this season, just so we have that as a backup if we need it. So.
Yep, and we gave, lacrosse, the girls, the 1 month last year in the fall. I
Yeah,
think they used September
I
because
mean,
they're practicing.
I would hope Park Board encourages all sports to, we're trying to get away from, just strictly dedicated sports fields. That's why we don't call them soccer fields, or
The
we call them
lacrosse,
playing
yeah,
fields, just because they do accommodate a lot of different sports and stuff. Especially when we're kind of gonna be tight in a lot of fields in the
Mhm.
next year.
Yeah.
And the area behind the tennis courts, between tennis courts not our tennis courts, but the school tennis courts, and Highway 14 I know is used for kind of some JV practice and
Yeah, I think the football team.
ultimate
practices
and,
back there. High
um,
school football, I think in the
yeah, I
summer.
don't
Yeah,
know
that's
if
for
you've
flag
approached-
football
if you've
practice,
approached,
you know, they do play games.
the school district about at least using them for 2022 or something like that.
Yeah, we've reached out to them about potentially using that practice field, because if Prairie View goes down, you'll
Yeah,
probably see me back here asking for more,
yeah.
more Sunday.
Well,
Just-
and
just-
the issue with the field by the ice rink is that floods really, really easily too.
Mhm, right.
So even
It
if we
doesn't
get,
drain well, I know that.
yeah, and so even if we get a half an inch of rain, we, you know, nobody can
Mud,
practice there,
yeah.
so.
Yeah, I think that's, I know that's not a good drainer over there.
There's a lot of trees that were lost at Thompson Park, and so the question with all the
Yeah.
trees going out, the question is would be available for that?
Not a big field.
It's not-
It's just, that big field,
Yeah.
it just takes so much square footage. And that's like Highlands and Etherwood, you know, is a great field, but for lacrosse, it's not a great field.
Mhm.
Because you get that small ball flying, you need a certain
Right.
circumference around.
It would work for like a U10
A U-
field
a smaller.
because they're like half the size of like a regular field that
Yep.
even the 14s use. But I don't think we've really been thinking about that because we have the available space over by the ice rink, which is currently what the youth teams are using, so.
Yep. Which is the reason why we always, same thing, Bergamot is off limits in the fall because of football.
Yeah.
32, which we call the ice rink, is always the spring, for lacrosse.
So, I like to
Okay.
make a recommendation, I guess, just to keep us moving forward. We could talk about
What was the
trees
other
and parks
items?
all day. So I think the shed, locations that have been suggested are fine. We can work, Jeff and I can work with Brian to just tweak and see if a couple of those can be tucked behind some other trees or along the drainage areas. And then I think, the request that you've made for Sunday usage at Highlands and Netherwood is reasonable. We could maybe just, try that for the springtime and see how it works. I think a lot of the families that are using the park aren't necessarily using the full field, but are more there for the playground use and the shelter and the pathways. So if we do end up getting some comments or complaints from the neighborhood that the field is unavailable, we can certainly bring that back to Park Board and maybe take another look at it this summer before the fall season gets underway. But we could give it a try. Again, that park is kind of still getting discovered, the neighborhood's still getting built out, so we're not at full capacity there with more families in that area.
Brian, did you have any other requests?
Mm-mm.
Well, then I think we should put a motion forward on that and discuss. So if there's anybody willing to make a motion to approve what Brian Steffen has put forward for the soccer.
All motion.
We have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion in regards to what soccer has put request? So we'll call for a vote. All in favor, state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. So moved.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brian. Let us know when you get those sheds and just give me a call and we got flatbed trailers too, so, yeah. You're welcome.
So item 6B was review of village park funds, including annual endowment distribution from Madison Community Foundation, which had come before us a couple of months ago, I think, that at least that community foundation was. So I'm not exactly sure where this came from. It wasn't necessarily from me, but somewhere I think it came.
I think there was just a request on, you know, what type of, sorry, trying to catch up my what type of funds, you know, kind of fall within parks and, you know, because obviously we've got operating funds, we've got capital improvement funds and everything like that. So Martin, I'm gonna fill in for Martin. Martin had intended to be here tonight, but he's not able to be here with us tonight. So, you know, basically this breaks down where the funds are, what we have, and kind of approximates for this current and everything like that. The park land fund, that is when they do a fee in lieu of, when a developer comes in and they may have only 3 acres and they have to supply 5 acres, and they will pay a fee in lieu of for those several acres that they can't provide or don't want to provide for parkland.
For new neighborhoods.
Huh?
For new neighborhoods.
For new neighborhood
Yeah.
parks and everything like that. That fund was almost 273,000 in 2020 audit. Obviously, it's gonna be, more, but I don't think we've had a lot of fee in lieu of contributions lately, so I would assume it's gonna be fairly close to that. That 273,684 with a couple years' interest is probably 273,685 now. What do you think?
Yeah.
2 years' interest on
Couple months.
200,000 at the bank rate. Park Improvement Fund, this is kind of what is helping to fund, for example, J.C. Park. It has grown exponentially because this is where we put the borrowed funds. This is a capital fund. So when we borrowed like $3 million for J.C. Park, and then we borrowed another 500,000, that goes into this fund. So it's actually probably around, would you say 4.5 million is I think where Martin thought this was, Lisa? Seems about right, although we've been paying our architects and our engineers and everything out of that kind of funds. And then we have other miscellaneous funds that are related to parks, the building equipment funds. Really not much, that really comes out of, like, if we're gonna borrow a new mower for the year, for the parks, that would go out of that. The bike trail fund, that was at 260,000 change, a couple years ago, but we've actually been using that to help upgrade some trails, and then some of that money is actually going to the J.C. Park trails. That's kind of one of those pots of money that we are going to be using to be able to try to build J.C. Park Phase 1. You may remember, we talk about a lot of the need for nature-style conservancy parks. I just want to bring this up to everyone's, level of understanding here is the Hermsen family came to us several years ago with the desire to donate to the village this 60-acre conservancy, which is just west of Highlands of Netherwood subdivision, and it's this kind of semi-odd shape. These are typical town parcels. But if you're ever driving out on Netherwood or on CC and you see that property out there with all the pine trees, and it's just a really, really neat piece of property. So when that, we've signed an agreement with the family, and when they either move away from there or pass, then that will then go into our responsibility. It'll be a nature-style park. It'll be more like what we would envision kind of as happening out at Anderson County Park out there. Natural trails. We're not even sure if we can put a bathroom out there, according to kind of how tight it is from a conservancy standpoint. But we'll continue to evaluate that, whether we'd have to, and have a little parking lot out there and trails and stuff like that. So, but there.
Likewise, the village will have to be able to afford to maintain it, because he's done a great job with maintaining it.
Correct.
So it's a little different than Anderson. Anderson was kind of run down when the volunteers stepped forward, but they've done a really good job.
Correct, and we hope that Oregon Nature Alliance, we hope others will want to organize groups that will want to help in the maintenance and upkeep of that project. But that's a very large conservancy area. Part of that, when we did the development agreement for Highlands and Netherwood subdivision, we just had at I think it's per the sale of each lot, it's $155, and that was to go towards possibly a parking lot,
Whatever.
a gravel parking lot or something that, in the future. Probably, we're estimating it's around $6,000 right now. And then we talk about the Madison Community Foundation Endowment. This is just something we get kind of a dividend check every year. Last year it was $1,000. And we put that usually towards purchasing trees or equipment for the parks. Obviously, as we go into the budget process, I think I missed a page here. Did I miss a page? No. I wanted to talk about the impact fees. Where were the impact fees?
I think you had
Beginning.
those.
At the beginning.
It says park improvement fee, I think.
Okay, oh, here, I mean, the impact fees are adding a lot of funds to the parks. Almost what, $2,000 per lot. And we saw, I think, almost $200,000 last year, I believe.
I think it was more than that.
It was a little more than that,
actually, because of the
that went into that
Prairie-
fund.
Prairie Brook-
Um,
Prairie Brook,
Yeah.
construction.
And a significant amount of money. I don't know why I can't find it.
I saw it, cause I read it.
I know, I read it today too. Hermson Fund,
I thought I see it on page 2 or 3.
maybe I'm reading a different one
Park
than that was in
improvements
here.
fund?
Yeah, it's under there,
Yeah.
it says impact fees.
It's on this?
Yeah, it's right here,
Page
Park
two.
Improvement Fund.
Page 2.
The top of the page.
There you go, right there.
Okay,
Stop.
Park Improvement Fund, there we go, okay.
It's been a long day, long week already.
It's been a long
Only
meeting
Tuesday.
week and everything, but in any event, that's something that's actually bringing in a lot of money. We're gonna be able to see, hopefully that money is gonna go back to pay, debt service on J.C. Park. It'll go in to pay debt service on Highlands and Netherwood Park, which we borrowed almost, I think, 1.6 million
Yeah,
for
it's-
for
yeah,
that park.
We're using it for the
So,
debt service on
yep.
Highlands and Netherwood currently, yes.
And then, just as we go through the budget process, you know, we go through and we're always trying to see where our expenses are going up. There's certain years that are a little more than, most. I can tell you, like this year, we are spending a little more money on, we're refreshing all the wood chips in all the parks, which have not been done in the last year to 2 years, and so that's a very important, and that's very specialized stuff, believe it or not. There's only a few manufacturers of it that guarantee the squishiness of it, and squishiness, you can add that to the minutes. But as we just go through the budget process, if there's certain things that you as the park board want us to be including in the budget, then, you know, between now and middle of summer, that's the time where we really need to kind of know about those and maybe what your emphasis and your direction would be to us.
I think that's the opportunity that the park board, since they really do just recommend to the village board, is that we should gather that kind of information. And we should look at the parks and look at the opportunities, because when you
Yep.
compare our parks to a lot of the neighboring, which we don't have any fees for using, some of the benefit is these other parks will end up having things like restrooms and other things, make it attractive
Right.
for rental purposes. So I think that's an opportunity for us to capture and understand what our parks are, where
Yep.
our parks could be improved, and then put these ideas together so that they don't get overlooked and we can bring them forward to the village board.
Exactly. Just an idea that one of my street superintendent brought up to me, because, you know, one of the complaints we get is the sand will get full of weeds, and the sand is great for growing weeds. And his thought was maybe we would try to just use pea gravel, because pea gravel does not grow weeds. And usually the sand is kind of where the kids like digging around, and anyways, and I thought it was a pretty neat idea. So we might try that at Park this year and see if kids like it. That's where they have the digger shovels. And so, you know, those kind of things, I love those kind of ideas, because those allow us to be better managers and stewards with the funds we have and with the parks we have.
It is kind of cool when you get into some of those off of Bergamot. All the neighborhood kids have left all their toys out there to share.
Yeah,
It's awesome.
yeah.
It's really pretty cool. Not the same in a lot of the other ones, but I think that would be some value, and I know the plans in the next probably half a year or so is to start beginning the process of looking at long-term planning for the parks, and that's some of the things that we could keep in consideration. Thank you for bringing that forward, and certainly.
Well, Martin, I give Martin all the credit for the memo.
And I appreciate the
and
information.
I get the credit for butchering it.
For the information in the budget as well as
Yeah.
what's been put forward, and realizing some of this is for some of the other developments that's already in movement. Anything else? Item 6, communication miscellaneous business items, so we're discussing potential actions. Item A was request from the soccer club, which, I backed up a little bit.
Yeah, you backed up.
Yeah, I backed up, okay.
Hit
Not
fast
just
forward about
Jeff, right?
20 minutes.
I think
We're on 7.
7 it is, correct, so unfinished business, none. One of the things I feel is worthwhile to at least share a little bit what's happening in Anderson Park. There hasn't been a whole lot of development, but What they've done is they've brought in conservatories and really looked at what trees, and there's a variety of trees that are in different areas. And so they got a master plan of what they're looking for trees to grow in these different areas. And there's pine trees, there's some oak trees, there's a variety of it. And so they've kind of developed a master plan what they want to do. The downfall of that, they decided they want to get rid of a lot of trees because they don't either fit into the natural tendencies or where they really want to grow into it. So it's somewhat shocking in a sense that there's a lot of trees that are down, but the volunteers have been busily out there cutting trees and clearing out the brush. We'll look forward to a lot of the growth coming in. It's going to be really beneficial, even to the point of a tree blew over on Sunday, and so the volunteers are out there on Monday morning cutting the trees up. What's been awesome is that they just haul the wood out to the outside with the Boy Scouts or whatever out to the edge, and people are just picking it up, whatever kind of wood it is.
Yeah, I mean, they've been
It's
advertising
awesome.
for that too.
Yes.
I mean, that's been, not like people are just scavenging, it's like.
They're just
yeah.
looking for it, it's like, when is it gonna be out there? So the Boy Scouts hauled a whole bunch this last Saturday. And so there are some, lots of plans going forward. They did expand to the prairie, and so they planted that prairie in winter.
Yeah.
So they're looking forward to getting that grown, to really identify that the natural birds and some of the nature needed to have more of the prairies in order for them to continue to survive. So looking at growing that. The dog park, they had a cleanup in the dog park. The attendance in the dog park, I think, has been awesome. I think a lot of people really enjoyed it.
So there's a grand opening or something
Yeah,
for
they
the
postponed it.
18th or 19th of this month.
There's
I
a lot
saw
of
it.
activities
Yeah.
coming on in May. That's true. And the bike path gets lots of activity. It's amazing the time of the day there's cars in there. So, so it continues to add value to the edge of the village.
Yep.
So there's no other unfinished business. 8, new business. Item A was referral from the village board regarding the permanent conservancy on the remaining West Park properties adjacent to the library site.
All right, so before I jump in, I can certainly give some updates, but just wanted to ask you all, given that we are missing some, almost half of our board tonight, I'm happy to kind of go through the whole memo, and we can talk about next steps, or if you'd like to kind of do that more deep dive at the next meeting when we hopefully have our new village board representative on board, I'm happy to do that. I just don't want to rehash the same information more times than we need to, but I can definitely give some updates kind of on the library process and some of the planning approvals that we'll be going through with this property.
What's your thoughts? How about just an overview? I agree.
Okay.
I think we really want everybody present for it.
Yeah, I want to make sure we can have a productive conversation and that everyone, because it'll be an ongoing, a lot of decisions to be made on this property for sure. But just a couple updates on the library site. I believe Martin included in the packet the CSM for the library site. So as you may have heard, given some of the requests that were incorporated from Nature Alliance, as well as trying to include a bypass path around the back of the new library, geothermal on the site, room for future expansion, stormwater ponds, meeting the updated parking requirements, all of those pieces, as well as a new library design that has more of a 1-story wing and then a 2-story wing. The footprint of the site did grow a little bit from what we originally expected. So the CSM, which is the certified survey map, carves out the land that will be handed over to the library board to contain all of those library uses and spaces outside, is 6.9 acres. So the Planning Commission looked at this last week. Village Board is going to be on their 18th agenda. So after that approval, this will go up to the county to get recorded. Once that parcel is in place, then we're moving forward with a comprehensive plan amendment, basically just to designate this new parcel as an institutional use, which is the library use, and then the remaining piece of the parcel kind of along the edges there, thanks of the library site, will be designated as a park use, which is called rural holding or conservation in our comp plan. And all of the parks in our comprehensive plan are designated as that, whether they're conservancy or a more active use like a JC park. So That comprehensive plan process, that public hearing will be the beginning of June, and then we expect both the rezoning to institutional zoning and then the site plan review to be at our July Planning Commission meeting. So that, again, will just be for the library site. And construction at this point, depending on where we are with the bid market, we're hoping we'll be able to start later this fall, and it's about a 1-year construction window for the library. But in terms of use of the site, nothing is happening. In the meantime, it's going to be designated as park, the remaining lands, as well as the rest of that cornfield up to the north. So I don't think there's any harm in waiting and having that conversation. We've got everybody else on board. We also, do have our Park and Rec plan, update plan for next year, all through 23. We'll have that budgeted for next year, as well as an update to our comprehensive plan. So we can talk about that a little bit more, about how the conversation about this property might fit in well, time-wise, with some of those updates to the plans. But we're not going to be building any other buildings out here in the meantime, so just moving the library approvals through so we can get design wrapped up, and then that bid out later this summer for a fall start, hopefully.
Okay. Any questions in regards to the overview?
Has anyone given any thought as far as solar panels?
Yes, yeah. We're actually pursuing a couple different grants that might fund the entire array of solar panels, but there will be geothermal, solar, a lot of really neat sustainability features of the building, and even just the stormwater management of the site. It's going to be kind of a focal point of the site, so it'll be integrated with the parking lot and kind of another education opportunity for people on the site. But yeah, definitely there'll be solar panels. We're actually kind of designing the roof so that it'll be optimal for getting those facing south, get the most sun throughout the day.
Have you given any thought to what kind of solar panel system as far as like the wattage?
I'm not sure. I know one of the grants that we were looking at actually does ask for kind of what's the size of your array, what's your load. They're getting to that as they're working through some of the design of the building, understanding kind of what's the square footage and how much air do they need to be, well, not for heating and cooling for solar panels, but what's the electrical load of the library. So I'm not sure what the size of that array will be, but yeah, as we have more information, we'll definitely keep you guys posted. It's coming along really nicely. Been part of the design meetings, and it's gonna be a beautiful space. Definitely a really nice asset. I think it's really gonna function as kind of the new trailhead for the park too, for people to be able to stop in, use the restroom, get some water, stop on their walk, and really take advantage of the site out here and have a nice relationship with the park out here.
Awesome. Any other questions? Very good. Elise, thank you very much for that information. Appreciate that. We'll look forward to more discussions in the future. 8B, consider renaming J.C. Park.
This is an exciting opportunity, we think. We had hoped when we were going through fundraising that we put it out there. I believe it was $250,000 for a naming rights to the park, where it could be one community park, or it could be Culver's Park, or anything like that. But we've not had anyone step up to that as of yet. J.C. Park, as it's been known, I don't know how it got that name originally. Maybe someone remembers that or knows about that, but I mean, we used to have J.C. Club in the village. We don't have that anymore. This is a nice time where I think we can rename it. The original, if I go back in some of the original files and old dusty, mildewy type of stuff I find, it was originally called Central Park, which I think is kind of a neat idea, but it was designed as you've seen, except for those center areas that have the trail that goes around it, were actually supposed to be lakes. They were going to excavate those, and those were going to be internal lakes, and it was always meant to be kind of a walking and enjoying park. So somewhere along the way, I think they'd said the lakes are going to be too expensive or whatever. But in any event, huh? Not enough
I think
water,
there's
yes.
plenty of water.
Yeah.
We have
They
plenty of
dig it
water
out.
right now.
Maybe the Latin natural
So-
lakes.
I think this is kind of a fun project for the village, or for the park board to take on, if you're up for it and interested in it. I think it's a opportunity. These are great times where you can solicit input, you can, however you would like to, and come up with a recommendation to the village board of, name of the park,
Maybe we
route.
get somebody out there that's just waiting for it to start, and they have that 250,000.
They might, they might.
I think we should advertise one more time, and they can name it.
We can. I mean, I think, how do I say this? We've put out a lot of, I've talked to some of the larger entities, and we've never had anyone really talk with us that seriously about it.
Because there's people waiting to see when it starts, because right now they're kind of holding back
Yeah.
because of COVID, and we didn't really. So I think, can I advertise it? Is it all right?
You can, you are the park board. You can advertise it. You can, if you can come in here with someone with $200,000 or $250,000,
Okay.
it could be, Canutes in Park.
So you think I got 200,000, huh?
I'm just
Might have
saying,
to ask Dave about
yeah, and, but I do think, it's something that, it's an opportunity, and I think we've all along said that J.C. Park was kind of just what it's called, and that's what it's been, but I don't think long-term that's,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love Central Park. I think that's really, but
Mhm.
now let's see what we can do.
Yeah, once we have the construction start date and all that, we'll be able to, and the
Yeah.
groundbreaking, maybe somebody wants to
yeah.
show up and make an announcement, but, yeah, moving forward, if there's a list of names
Yeah.
we wanna vote on, we could certainly, work on putting out like a community survey with a list of names
Sure.
and ask people to vote and come back with that.
You see it in zoos sometimes, name the latest
Panda,
Yeah.
bear cub or, panda or something like that, but I mean, if, it might just be some way that'd be fun that the park board would be able to involve the public and come up with something that, we aren't envisioning.
I think so too.
Great idea. Thank you, Jeff. 8C, any future items or any future assignments? I don't think there's anything. Do we have any assignments? We'll look forward to getting a full board as we move forward, and then we can take some action from there. Any other comments from the park board? Things they'd
Can I
like to share?
bring mine up, Lisa?
The one we talked about
Yeah.
today? Yeah.
We're trying to talk about doing a,
Farmer's market.
farmer's market, and we were thinking about over by Village Hall on Sundays.
New Village
From
Hall.
the new Village Hall on 10 to 2. Anybody, but it'd be at the park. And I have a nonprofit organization that would like to run it. And then they advertise and get the proceeds for whatever they charge the booths.
What park? Or where?
The
Piotr
little
Park we were
soccer
talking
field,
about,
yeah.
yeah, 153 Alpine Parkway. Yeah, I did actually have a chance to talk with Alex about reservations for that. I think soccer had it blocked off for the Sundays just as a backup, but he said that they're actually not end up using it on the weekends much, so they would make it available for that farmer's market. That's actually one use that we talked about when we bought that additional lot, hoping that a farmer's market or maybe community concerts or something could be both downtown and maybe out at this lot as well. So I talked to Jeff a little bit about this afternoon, and I think we might need to have her put a porta potty for now, just because Village Hall doesn't have the access control for the bathrooms yet, but I think
Otherwise,
would
we
be-
could have it over here to start with, and then move it
In
over
Triangle
there.
Park.
But it's kind of nice to start it right there instead
Yeah,
of.
we've been
moving it
encouraging,
around.
trying to
Yeah,
get people
parking
thinking
and
about that as.
visibility.
Yeah,
as-
there's
yeah.
a lot of parking.
yeah, and we can work, again, it would probably be temporary signage that they would just put out, that morning of and take down, but I think it would be great to give it a try this year, and we could see how that
'Cause
site
we
works.
always wanted the farmer's market, but it was, where do you have it? Bill's didn't, and now the
Mhm.
hardware store wants to build, and so,
Be nice to have it a different day of the week too, because I know Tuesday nights can be
Yeah.
right.
hard for folks, so.
And they didn't want it on Saturdays, so they had competition with downtown Madison.
Mhm.
So they, when I brought it up to her, because she's running our craft show for Summerfest. And that's what they do. That's how actually it's not what is
It's
it?
the American Legion.
American Legion, not the VFW, American Legion. And so that money goes back to them in their nonprofit, and they do great things with it.
So what would happen Tuesday would be done?
I don't know,
Tuesday?
if he wants to do it, I'm not.
I think he may have already applied for the permit. Yeah, it would be a separate farmer's
Yeah.
market run by a
So
different.
he can have it Tuesday and she can
organization.
have it Sunday.
I like it.
Yeah.
I mean, I like the walking, there's a lot of pedestrian
Mhm.
traffic there, and then there could be, I mean, Tuesday's kind of on the other side of town then, too.
Yeah, it'd be walkable for a lot of families, I'm sure, too.
Mhm.
Thank you for sharing the idea. I don't think we'll take any action from the Parks Board.
No. And I'm still working with her, because I brought it up to her saying, if you're gonna help us with they hold it over at the school parking lot every once in a while in the summertime.
Yeah.
And so I said, how would you think about make it with a farmer market and then having them over there? And she goes, oh my gosh, that would be good money that's a good way for the American Legion to, make money.
Yeah, so we'll work with Judy on that and
Great.
give you an update next month. Hopefully it's coming together.
Awesome, wonderful. Item 9, adjournment.
I'll make that motion.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. So moved. Thank you very much. Thank you, Peggy, for
Thank you.
getting us together.
Miller, you're a
Glad
lacrosse
that-
player.
I am.
I've always been impressed at how fast a reflex is.
Yeah.
Anyone that plays that sport, it's like